largely.
Mm-hmm.
In my opinion, the world has changed a lot in that way, and I think that's why our friends from the other cosmic societies have come in more and more to help us lift up and get back there again.
So you work with a lot of different contactees, and what is the message that you're getting, and what kind of beings are they reporting to you?
Well, it's interesting. My friend Paula Harris, she told me about this. We have this wonderful film that Craig Campobasso, who is fabulous. I've not met him yet, but I'm really looking forward to meeting him and knowing him. Mm-hmm. He did The Stranger at the Pentagon with Val Thor. And Paula Harris is probably the best researcher and ufologist that exists. She is the owner of Starworks USA,
mm-hmm.
and she is fantastic. And we were talking about this, and so I have seen the pictures of Val Thor and the mm-hmm. story. As we all know, it's quite fantastic. And I'm really happy that Craig and them won that the film festival. That's really great.
Right. They had a premiere, was it last weekend or the week before? They had a big Hollywood premiere, and Craig's going to be on our second hour of this show. But,
yeah.
Mm-hmm. So you're talking to Paula, and then they start...
Well, after that, in the mid-'80s, I was called in by a psychiatrist and physicians in West Virginia, that borders to come up there for 2 or 3 months and stay, and they would, pay me a salary to interview all these coal miners. And they were having experiences, and they had, it was the Whiffville incident, and it really happened there nearby, and all these coal miners, the psychiatrist said it was not, she didn't believe they were hallucinating. She thinks it was real. So I interviewed like 250. They were so sweet.
Wow.
And they were all telling the truth. They weren't hallucinating. And one of them, in particular, I'll never forget this, he said he went out to the back. They're Appalachian people, and so they live in the mountains. And he said, I went to get take my trash out, and there was a tin object-looking thing right over me with lights, and I didn't know what to do about it. And so it was wonderful. I mean, I heard this over and over by hundreds, and these people, nobody knew each other.
Right.
So
they were seeing vehicles.
Did they touch
They were
them?
seeing vehicles. I'm sorry?
Did they touch the vehicles? Did they contact the inhabitants of the vehicles?
I don't think they knew how. The ones I took to didn't know what to do and what to do with them. Now, I heard that there's a book that the editor of the paper there wrote called Don't Look Up by Danny Gordon and Paul Dillinger. It was the Virginia UFO sightings. And what happened is that some of them, I think, may have had real experiences. Mine were people who just said what they saw, and they never were taken or anything. They were scared, and, they saw people roaming around and saw black helicopters all around. And there were a lot of government people there. And just all throughout the town. And we could usually tell, it was a small town, and we could usually tell, the people walking around, it looked different from the residents. But it was quite an experience. That's really what got me into all this on a big scale.
So you're saying that the people that weren't the locals really stuck out?
Not really. They just didn't really think much about it. They just didn't know what to do with them, with the experiences. They weren't afraid. And I was just listening to them, and I knew that they were telling the truth. And so maybe some of them had an experience. I don't know. So it's quite interesting.
So you didn't take them with hypnosis deeper into their sightings to see if they had anything going on besides just seeing these?
No, a lot of them had, when I got in there, we worked a lot with issues and things like that. And some of them had issues from that because at the time they were missing a lot of work because they were very emotionally torn up over it. And so their employers were calling us, and we were having to do some paperwork and verify that these people were having, PTSD or whatever, because of something else. But we kind of covered them. And so they were emotionally shook up, not in a fearful way, but they were shocked.
Mm-hmm. What do you think was going on? Why this part of West Virginia?
I don't know. Maybe it was a place where they have a vortex, or a place, I'm not sure.
Is there a military base there or an underground facility? The government?
Not that I know of. I don't know. I was so busy in there, I never got to leave the premises. I was working so hard, except just to walk around a little bit. But I do know that someone was driving up in the hills and in a pickup in the night, and they thought they saw a deer run across the road, and they stopped, and they were just shocked because it was a being who was a tall, walked on two legs, and they said it would look like a reptilian.
Whoa.
And that they looked scared. So,
the reptilian looked scared.
Looked scared and ran down into the gully or down into the mountains or something. This is what I heard. I don't know. Personally, it didn't come into contact. This is just a story that someone had said.
Mm-hmm. So what you do with that story? Did you have to give a report to somebody with all these stories?
There were so many stories. I mean, at night, the doctors and I would go out and try to sit on a hill and see if we could see anything, and we never saw anything at that time. We didn't see anything. I personally have seen something here in Dallas during the day on a Christmas in the mid-'90s over near what's called North Park, which is a shopping area. And it was in the middle of the day on a sunny day, beautiful sky. And a friend and I were going into the mall, and I just looked up, and there was this triangle, golden triangle, up in the sky, just as plain as day. And
wow.
I said, and this friend of mine was from Brazil, and I said, "What do you see?" And she said, "Are you saying that's a UFO?" And I said, I think it is. And so then people started stopping, and other people were looking at it, and they said, "Wow, what do you think about that?" And everybody was looking at it, and then all of a sudden it just took off.
Wow.
And it looked like a shield. It was a rectangular thing, and it just took off. It was bright golden. It was a sunny day, but I did see that.
How big was the thing?
How what?
Large.
Oh, it was large. But it was from a distance. I would say it was larger than an airplane.
Wow.
So it was close at hand, but it was a distance would be probably like an airplane before it descends to come in for a landing.
Yeah. So what did you do with all this stuff? You're seeing these sightings. You're working with these. How did you?
Well, I just always have been there. My husband and I were raised in a town near Dallas in Fort Worth called Glenrose, Texas, and this is near where they had the Stephenville lights that happened in 2008. And a friend of mine, Steve Allen, I don't know if you've heard about them, but that's a big story that's out. And so that's how, but it was kind of funny because I wanted to get involved with it at the time in 2008, and I was working with these two companies, and my manager told me not to get involved because otherwise it could hurt my business, and I said, well, I didn't really care that, this was my mission. I had to go, and So I let him talk me out of it. And then in 2012, it came to me when Paula had her conference in Glen Rose. And I was with a student of mine who was sitting there telling me, did you know they're going to have a UFO conference in Glen Rose? And I said, really? And she said, yeah. I said, well, why don't let's call up and see if we can go. And so Paula answered the phone. And so we had a talk and talked for an hour and signed up. And she said, I happen to have a person who's not going to be able to make it, who's a clinical hypnotherapist. Can you fill in? And I said, sure. And so it all started from there. Paula is from Rome, and I lived in Rome for years back in the mid-'80s. Wow. And so we spoke with a little Italian and said hello, and like I had known her forever. Well, and so it was a fabulous conference. The first one was in Glen Rose, and it was honoring those people who had experienced Stephenville lights, Angela Joyner and Steve Allen. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, there's been a lot of things. And I think, in my own private practice, I can feel certain people come in here who work with me because I have students that I develop, and they're with me for a long time. And they know that they've been picked and they've seen lights and that sort of thing.
So
I'm sorry?
So you're saying they know that they've been selected. Do they get selected?
These 4 or 5 people that I work with do. They know they've been selected. And one of them is a teacher, and she has a published book out called The Little White Light. And I can go ahead and give her name. Her name is Judy Lowe, and she's also going to be at the conference. And she has had an experience, too, through that, and has written the book and published the book and had an interview with, so many people, and even had an interview with Joel Osteen on it. So I don't know what she did with that part of it, but, so I've had a lot of people who are aware that they've been called, and these particular 4 students that I develop when we go to these altered states through sound and light are really dedicated to it. They, have experiences on their own, and so that's what we talk about. Some people are, and some people are working on other things.
Mm-hmm. So when they're called, what are they called to do? What do you think is the mission here?
I think it's kind of like a missionary. Mm-hmm. It's something that they have to do, that they want to do, that they feel like helping mankind. Like Judy's little book, she's a TAG teacher, which is talented and gifted children. And she has, I think her mission is to help children who are coming up to be the leaders of, our future. And so she helps in that way, in writing in the language that these children, and actually they're for adults too, they're cute. Mm-hmm.
So what are some of the messages that you're getting? So are they seeing certain beings? Are they going to certain places? Or are they on ship? What is there a pattern?
Well, some of them go on ships, and they actually have a life, a multi-dimensional life, and they are on the beta level consciousness, like walking around here. And then at the same time, if they want to access that, or if they're called in from that level by their friends, their cosmic friends, then they can do that. Mm-hmm. And it can be when they're by themselves. It can be in a dream state. It can just be if they're just sitting looking out the door. It's something that they hear and experience, and sometimes they see. But the ones that I work with have seen people. They're just like us. They're not little grays. They're not reptilians, and they're not other creatures. Right. Now, I believe that everything exists out there. That's like if somebody says, "Do you think planet Earth's good?" Well, the answer to that. It's everything. So everything's out there, but the ones that are of the light like